Black Torch is a series that I found while browsing through the Jump app a while back, and it's something that I was kind of interested in but didn't have a spark to read. It seemed interesting enough, but what really interested me enough to read it is that I saw that for some reason I had an anime coming up, and the length screamed that it was an act series. And I was curious to try the series because I wanted to see what was the spark there that led to this series being revisited after it had been cut short. Black Torch is a story about Jiro Azuma, an outcast high school who can talk to animals and prefer their companies to that of humans. With the only human we see Jiro having interacted with truly, by the time the story starts, being his grandfather. Jiro stumbles upon a cat, wounded in the forest, and takes the cat in to nurse it back to health. Jiro then learns that the cat, named Rago, is a Mononoke, and a powerful one at that, who tries to leave during the night. We then find out that other Mononoke are looking for Rago, either to recruit him to their cause or to take his power. Jiro protects the wounded Rago from one such Mononoke, and is dealt a fatal blow, at least until Rago returns the favor and revives Jiro, the two combining. And that is just the beginning, the first chapter. I honestly was intrigued by the beginning of Black Torch, interested in what it was setting up and what would come from it. But, unfortunately, Black Torch didn't get the time to realize those ideas as much as it wanted, since, it got axed, ending with only 19 chapters. I do think it uses the length that it was given pretty well. Obviously, it would have been able to breathe and flesh out its idea further if it had more time. But I think it did a pretty good job fitting in what it did within the space it was given. I'm curious if the anime will give this series the time to breathe that it never got, but, we'll just have to see then. Jiro felt familiar yet not repetitive, which I liked for the main character. He embodies the strong-headed and kind protagonist you see many times over with a streak of self-reliance. His line of saving someone is never stupid is something that I really liked, and really kind of sets up Jiro's character nicely, as well as being a good character moment. This kindness and determination is something that drives Jiro, and it's something we see him exhibit in a few different ways throughout the series. We see his stubbornness in multiple ways throughout the series as well, whether it be him forcing his way ahead or refusing to accept help or step down. We see this from the beginning, as Jiro and Rago made it their goal to figure out their path ahead together and for themselves, which we just see in action throughout the series, from their training and working together, and even when they're forced to split apart and Rago gives Jiro his power so that Jiro can continue to fight. Speaking of, I did like Rago as well. I felt he complemented Jiro pretty well, mirroring him in a lot of ways. They're both stubborn and determined to do things their way. But where Jiro is fine helping and working alongside Rago, Rago becomes fine doing the same over time. I feel like I kind of think of Jiro and Rago as more or less a singular entity, since the deuteragonists are so closely entwined, both physically and story-wise, as well as a bit personality-wise. At least to me, Rago feels like an older and more self-focused version of Jiro in a lot of ways. They're both stubborn and want to do things their way, not for others, but end up helping others anyways. And both were outcasts that made friends with the group that they otherwise would have been isolated from, with Jiro being able to communicate with animals and Rago protecting the village he stayed in long ago. Honestly, I don't really have much to say about the rest of the main cast. They were interesting and I more or less enjoyed them, but none of them really stood out as much to me or were given enough time to develop its shine, as compared to Jiro and Rago, as the series' unfortunately short run forced it to focus mostly on Jiro. That's not to say the others never got a spotlight, it's just that I felt that it wasn't enough and also didn't do enough for me. They definitely had interesting ideas and setups, I just don't really feel like they had enough time or focus to grow on me as just as they needed to for them to properly grasp me, even if I did like a lot of the ideas they had present. The standout of the rest of the cast, however, was Amagi, the big bad. Nothing we haven't necessarily seen before, but I did still find him interesting, especially the way he went about his goals. The big background of the series is Mononoke and humans have been at odds since long ago, with humans originally venerating Mononoke as gods, but eventually banning each other to be able to kill Mononoke. Agami's goal is to restore things to the way they should be, and in service of this, he is seeking to grow stronger, and like many other Mononoke, he desired Rago's power. It's never really explained exactly how other Mononoke want to gain Rago's power, but Amagi has a unique ability. While Mononoke can eat humans to become stronger, Amagi can eat other Mononoke to gain their strength, using cannibalism to become a single force of strength. I like the contrast between this and Jiro and Rago, where Amagi is a very outward singular being, Rago is a very inward singular being, and Jiro is in the middle. What I mean is where they focus and derive their strength from, with Amagi taking that of others, Rago naturally having that strength, and Jiro having to rely on himself and others, whether it be Rago, his grandpa, or his team members. Amagi also has this twisted version of the strong protecting the weak, which explains by saying that the weak Mononoke were saved because their fate was put in the hands of the strong, his hands, talking about the Mononoke he had recruited and just eaten. Alongside this, he talks about Mononoke no longer being the name of the otherworldly beings in general, but instead the name of the singular being, him, after he eventually devours them all. Amagi is also one who set Rago free from his sealed slumber, which kicks off the events of the series, and actually managed to separate the combined Jiro and Rago quite early on in the series, in only chapter 12, which caught me off guard and is something I'm still surprised by. The reason for this is that the two have or make a plan, where Rago manages to leave his power within Jiro, making Rago powerless and rendering Amagi's plan of using him moot. I like this, both for the surprise of the split happening so early, as well as the way it plays out, as it forces Jiro to develop further, trying to control even a fraction of the power given to him by Rago, which leads to him accepting help from two sources: Ibuki, a Mononoke married to a human-turned Mononoke, who gives Jiro a baseline to train to control his power on his own, and his grandpa, who hammers it home one final time that Jiro can and should lean on and ask others for help. The penultimate conflict begins with the fruits of this lesson, as Jiro is carried into battle by his teammates, who need to protect him so he doesn't waste any of the half-hour timer he has on the control of his power. It ends with Jiro and Rago doing what they promised, punching Amagi together and defeating him with that final punch. Amagi then monologues as he dies, talking about how the two simply proved his might is right belief, and that they would have to continue fighting stronger opponents. The two had recombined during the fight, and even though there's an entire plot point of Rago realizing the combination of the two was like killing Jiro, they remained combined as the series end, choosing to drop that to make the ending smoother, which honestly is something I appreciated, because I don't know if you could really wrap it up nicely with the rest of the time left in the series. I enjoyed the art of Black Torch a lot, definitely a strong suit of the series. It was consistently really nice, with a lot of paneling and page layouts that I really enjoyed. The series also had a lot of panel breaks, which is really fun, and really added the series' identity. I really like panel breaks, so I hope to see more series utilize them as I read more series. The different layers of the pages kept the experience of turning the page and reading it engaging, something that I don't really get from a lot of series, and that they don't really do for me. I do really like how stylized a bunch of the title pages in the series were. They were super fun, and I looked forward to the title page in every chapter, which is something that really only One Piece has done for me so far, but I absolutely hope to find other series that make me feel the same way. Although it may have just been the series' short run that skewed my view on how often they appear compared to other series. All in all, I liked Black Torch, and I'm interested in what the anime is going to do. If it's going to follow the series as is, or if it's going to allow the series to follow its original vision, with the acts looming over it and compressing its available time. A series that I've had on my radar for a while, Heart Gear, happens to be made by Takai Tsuyoshi, the mangaka of Black Torch, and learning that made Heart Gear shoot way up in the list of series that I'm interested in reading. So expect that sometime in the future. I'm just glad to see an act series given a second chance at life with Black Torch's anime, especially since I also enjoyed it.